In this session, we will briefly discuss the signs and symptoms which can indicate substance use or even addiction by an individual. Now, many of these signs and symptoms which we are going to discuss may be non-specific, but they can potentially indicate use of a substance. However, in people who are already known to be using a substance, presence of some of the other signs and symptoms we discuss can potentially indicate a problem associated with their use of alcohol or drugs and even potentially addiction. Now, if it is not known if somebody is using a drug or a substance, then there can be some physical as well as psychological or behavioral changes which can help us suspect substance use. This may be particularly useful in case of children or adolescents whose parents or other family members are not really aware of their drug use. As far as the physical appearance is concerned, there can be changes in the daily habits like appetite, sleep, there can be weight loss. The child or adolescent or even an adult may actually start complaining of weakness or fatigue. There may be some other behavioral manifestations like slurring of speech or drowsiness or sedation, especially during daytime. There can be redness in the eyes, particularly if the individual is using cannabis. There could also be discoloration of lips or teeth or gums, especially if an individual is using either tobacco or one of the volatile substances. If somebody is using some drug which is injected, then there can be also injection marks over the forearm. Similarly, there can be behavioral manifestations of recent onset drug use or even drug use over a period of time. Drug use can often lead to changes in an individual's personality or general attitude towards life without any real identifiable cause like a stressful situation or something else. There can be changes in the activities the individual engages in or hobbies and interests of the individual or even in the friend circle. There can be irritation, aggression, especially towards the family members. Some individuals may have a general lack of motivation and energy and may lose self-confidence and self-esteem. There can be loss of interest in previously pleasurable activities or ignoring familial and other social responsibilities. Such individuals may often start withdrawing from social interactions. As far as the child is concerned, often the first behavioral manifestation of drug use is decrease in interest in studies and fall in school performance. Either it is drop in grades or even failure in the exams. These were features which help us identify if substance use could be a factor behind the recent change in physical appearance or behavior in an individual about whom we do not know whether he or she is taking drugs. However, if we know that somebody is taking alcohol or drug for a long period of time, then we can look for more specific features of drug addiction. These features include intense craving or a sense of compulsion felt to use drugs if drugs are not available. There can also be prioritization of drug use over all other activities, behaviors and interests. The individual often tends to lose control over the drug using behavior and is unable to decide or control when to initiate, when to stop and the amount of substance that he or she is going to consume. If somebody is using substances for a long period of time, the amount of intake of the substance also gradually increases over a period of time, and this is known as tolerance. The individual may also experience some physical and psychological discomfort whenever he or she either tries to or is unable to consume the substance. This is known as withdrawal syndrome, and the individual also is able to identify that the pattern of substance use is leading to certain harmful consequences in his or her life, but is unable to still change or modify the substance using behavior. Now, these last 2 points I would also discuss in a little more detail. First, coming to the withdrawal syndromes. Now, this is a very useful way of identifying addiction or dependence in someone who is already using drugs for a long period of time. They are typically seen only in those who have developed dependence to drug use, and they are often characteristic of a particular type of substance. So, the withdrawal which is associated with one category or type of substance is often different from another category or type of substance. So, this also helps us identify that which type of substance the individual may be addicted to. Now, withdrawals are usually short lasting and self limiting, but at the same time they are extremely distressing, and they are also the most common reason for someone's inability to give up substance use. As an example, we can take alcohol. It has a very characteristic withdrawal which is which primarily constitutes of inability to sleep or insomnia, anxiety symptoms which can take the manifestation of either an experience of ghabrahat or fearfulness or restlessness, and tremors. Now, there are other symptoms which can also be present in an alcohol withdrawal, but these three symptoms are the key characteristic features of an alcohol withdrawal. So, if someone is consuming alcohol for a long period of time in increasing quantities, and whenever he or she is unable to take alcohol and experiences these kinds of symptoms, there is a very strong likelihood that this individual is dependent on alcohol. Similarly, in opioids, if someone is addicted to opioids and is unable to consume any of the opioids, whether it is heroin or some of the injecting drugs or opium, then that individual experiences very severe pain in the body, particularly in the muscles. This pain is usually associated with restlessness, inability to fall asleep, and a number of other symptoms like watering from the eyes, running nose, yawning, abdominal cramps, even diarrhea. Now, these kinds of symptoms in someone who is known to be using one or the other of the opioid drug for a long period of time indicates possibility of opioid withdrawal and opioid addiction. Another case in point is tobacco. Now, tobacco is a very common drug which is used in our country as well as across the world. Now, any form of tobacco when taken leads to release of nicotine in the body, which goes to the brain and starts creating the phenomenon of addiction to tobacco. Now, if someone is consuming one or the other of the tobacco product for a long period of time and then stops it or reduces intake, then they experience symptoms like restlessness, inability to concentrate, drowsiness during the daytime, headache, and constipation. These symptoms indicate that there is a possibility of tobacco addiction in this individual. One of the important characteristics of all these withdrawal syndromes is that they can be easily relieved either by treatment or by consumption of the substance itself. And that is why if someone is experiencing these withdrawal symptoms and is not provided treatment, there is a very strong likelihood of that individual going back to substance use. Drug use and drug addiction, they are issues which almost everyone has an opinion about. People base these opinions on the kind of information they receive, and often the sources of these information are not very reliable. So, in this brief session, we will talk about some of the myths and misconceptions associated with use of drugs and drug addiction, and try to present the factual information regarding those issues. So, let us first begin with some opinions people express which are associated with use of drugs. These are mostly opinions which are sort of in favor of use of certain drugs or alcohol and may not necessarily be based in science or facts. Like people often say, a little bit of alcohol is good for health. What's the big deal? It's actually good for the heart. However, this is not really that strong a scientific fact. Certain types of alcoholic beverages, particularly red wines, in certain countries have been found to be associated with reduced risk of some heart conditions. Just generally saying that alcohol is good for health is actually an overstatement. So, we have to remember the context in which these findings have been based before we actually trust a statement like this. The best way to deal with alcohol, if you have a choice, is not to drink at all. However, if you do drink, then it is said that if you can moderate your drinking, then it will not damage your health, or the damage can be limited. Whether or not it ends up being good for you will depend upon a number of other factors, including genetics and environment and the climate and everything else, which in our country can be significantly different from the kind of countries where these studies were conducted. A second statement which is often heard is, beer really isn't alcohol, right? Because there is hardly any alcohol in it, 4, 5, 6%, that is it. So, how can we compare it with whiskey or some other alcoholic beverages which are so much stronger than beer? So, those stronger alcoholic beverages like whiskey, rum and gin, they are alcohol. Beer isn't really alcohol. But is it really true? When we take whiskey, when anyone takes whiskey, they consume it in the form of pegs. One standard drink or one peg of whiskey is usually 30 ml. But do we drink beer in that fashion? Do we take pegs of beer? No. Beer is usually consumed in the form of glasses or bottles. So, although the concentration of alcohol in beer may be less, the way it is consumed ends up making it similar to whiskey or some other alcoholic beverages. If you are going to drink a pint or a bottle of beer which is anywhere between 350 to 650 ml, then it becomes largely similar to taking a large peg of whiskey which is 60 ml. So, beer also is an alcoholic beverage, and in the manner it is consumed, it actually becomes similar to any other alcoholic drink. Now, people who do drink, many a times they give examples of the kind of behaviors they can engage in under influence of alcohol to suggest that they do not have a drinking problem. One of the common expressions is, I do not have a drinking problem, I can even drive under the influence of alcohol even after taking a few drinks. Now, first of all, it should not be done, it is dangerous, right. Even 2 pegs of whiskey can lead to enough blood alcohol concentration that it can affect your motor coordination and behavior. So, if you have had more than 2 drinks of whiskey or some other equivalent alcoholic beverage, you should not be driving. Another aspect of this is that it is also illegal. If the blood alcohol concentration of an individual while driving is more than 30 milligram per deciliter of blood, then it is above the limit which is permissible under the Motor Vehicles Act of our country, and it is a crime which can be punished by law. But the third and important aspect of this is that this is not a good indicator of whether you have a drinking problem or not. If you have problem drinking, there are other ways to find it. We have already discussed some of these ways in other sessions. So, those are the ways we should actually find out if you have a drinking problem or not. Just because you have the ability to engage in certain behaviors under influence of alcohol does not indicate that you do not have a drinking problem. It only indicates tolerance, which is one of the features of addiction. Now, for alcohol and possibly for some of other substances, we often hear that people say that I have a stressful life. So, using this, whether alcohol or drug, helps me relax, it helps me unwind. Now, this is often also a misconception, because people tend to associate the relaxation they feel or the sense of calmness they feel after taking a substance to the effect of that substance, while it may actually be a result of taking your mind off whatever is stressful in your life and spending some moments alone or in company of people that you have a good relationship with. So, it is not necessarily that the effect that you are experiencing, the sense of calmness or relaxation, is essentially due to the substance you are consuming. So, if you have a stressful life, you can achieve relaxation either just by spending some time alone or in company of people who make you feel relaxed, or there are other ways of relaxation. So, one does not really need to take alcohol or drugs to feel that relaxation. Moreover, over a period of time, use of alcohol or any other drug, especially if it is not done in moderation and is being done in a dependent pattern, will only lead to increase in stress, because of all the problems this alcohol or drug use is going to cause in somebody's life. Another opinion which is expressed is that I use drugs because they actually help me. They help my concentration, or they increase my creativity or imagination. Now, this also is a misconception, because there are, although some drugs which can increase concentration for some time, the effect is usually fleeting. So, over a long period of time, they do not really help in increasing productivity, rather they end up reducing your productivity, because after some time you can't really function without taking that drug. Similarly, some substances during intoxication may produce an effect by which the sensory experience of the environment is altered. So, you may feel a heightened awareness of your environment. This increases the creativity or imagination. However, over a longer period of time, they start affecting even the usual sensory awareness of the environment and lead to a reduction in creativity and productivity. Now, coming to some opinions people have regarding drug addiction or alcohol addiction. People often say drug addiction is largely a failure of somebody's will and strength of character. So, if somebody has become addicted to a drug, it is because that person is weak. If he or she was a strong person, they would have been able to control it. Now, this is a myth, because we all can potentially develop addiction to a drug. We all have the hardware and wiring in our brains which makes us vulnerable to drug addiction. It is the very nature of these substances which make someone who uses these substances vulnerable to drug addiction, and that property is known as reinforcement. All drugs, they lead to chemical changes in the brain of that individual who is consuming the drug, and then induces a drive, a desire to use that substance again. And over a period of time, if the substance is used again, this leads to development of addiction. So, addiction is actually a feature of our brain. It is a brain disease rather than a failure of someone's will or character. People also sometimes say that drug addiction, it is a voluntary behavior. If the person who is addicted wants, they can give it up. They want to take the drug, that is why there is drug addiction. But one needs to understand is that when the syndrome of drug addiction, which is a complex syndrome of behavioral, psychological and physical features, it develops, it is not usually possible for the individual to simply stop taking drugs without any help. They feel compelled to continue drug using behavior because they are unable to deal with the strong craving or the withdrawal symptoms which appear if they try to quit. It is also often said that people who are using drugs and have become addicted to them, why would they want to give it up? Why would they want to change? Why would they think of quitting? They are enjoying. But it is actually a fallacy, it's a misconception. Most individuals who are using drugs, they realize that after a period of time, use of drug for them is not a choice anymore, it has become a compulsion. It is something that they themselves cannot govern, cannot control. And when they reach this stage and are also experiencing the harmful consequences of this drug use, they realize that it is something which they need to change. However, because of the things I said earlier, the craving, the withdrawals and the inability to control drug use, they are unable to come out of drug using behavior. So, there may be a desire to change, but the ability of an individual, the confidence of an individual to actually execute that change is often not there. And the second thing is, drug users and people who become addicted to drug, they also come from the same society like we do. So like us, many times they also see their own drug addiction as a failure of their character or a weakness in their personality. So they also do not realize that this is a brain disease or a psychiatric illness that they are suffering from, and this is something which can be helped with treatment or counseling. There is another opinion which is that drug addiction that usually occurs in people who are homeless or unemployed or basically losers. Now that is a very strange opinion. It is actually drug addiction which often leads to homelessness or unemployment or a reduction in social status. So many of the people who are on the streets and we see them today using one or the other drug or alcohol in a pattern which we realize is excessive and potentially they are dependent on it. They may not always have been on the streets. Many of them may have had families, a stable employment, a roof on their head in the past, but it is drug addiction and their inability to seek help and come out of it which may have led to this situation that today they are homeless, unemployed or not productive. However, what also must be understood is that drug addiction generally is more common in lower socioeconomic status. As the socioeconomic status of an individual goes down, the likelihood of alcohol or drug addiction increases, and the reasons for that are not really that simple that it is linked with their financial abilities or financial status. Usually as we go down the socioeconomic strata, what we also find is that there is more stress in the life, there are less other opportunities for recreation. So there is a limitation there, the schooling, the parenting, everything becomes different, and there the likelihood of an individual, especially during adolescence or early adulthood, into alcohol or drug use becomes higher. Now there is a very contrary opinion which some people express that, oh, drug addiction, this is largely a problem of the Western culture and it is mainly present in in developed or industrialized or Western countries, and in India this problem is increasing only because of westernization of our culture, and that also is a misconception. In India we have had use of a variety of drugs from almost all the categories of substances from centuries. Many of these drugs are actually part of our culture. They are also used in some of our traditional systems of medicines like Ayurveda. So it's not that we learnt how to use drugs or psychoactive substances from the West. It is, yes, it is true that some of the substances have now started coming in from other parts of the world or from other countries, but many of the substances which are used in our country are actually locally produced. So this actually is not really a problem of westernization of our culture, it is mostly a problem of not recognizing that there is a problem and ignoring a problem, which has then led to an increase in the problem of addiction. Certain misconceptions regarding treatment of addiction. People believe that anyone who has developed addiction, it is a wastage of money if the government is actually spending on their treatment, because they are actually victims of their own doing. So why should we waste public money on it? Especially because people who are addicted to a drug, they can't really change or they cannot be treated. Now here there are multiple misconceptions. The first thing is that people who are addicted to a drug cannot be treated. Actually, drug addiction can be treated like any other chronic non-communicable disease or any other chronic relapsing illness. Examples being like diabetes or like hypertension or like hypothyroidism. There are many chronic illnesses, long-term illnesses which are not curable but can be treated. Drug addiction is something similar. It can also be treated with both medical treatment as well as counseling, but what the individual requires is to be linked with a place where such a treatment is available. in order to be helped. So, the problem here is largely non-availability of good quality evidence based medical and psychological treatment, because of which very few people are actually able to get treated in our country, and that is why the impression of the general community or general population is that drug addiction is not something which is treatable or curable, and people who have developed drug addiction, they cannot change. Another common misconception is that treatment of drug addiction requires admission to a rehabilitation center, and this admission should last for at least a few weeks or even months or years. The drug addiction, it is not possible for an individual to come out of it unless that person spends 6 months or a year in a rehabilitation center kind of a setting. Now, this actually is a very old concept or old approach to treatment of addiction. This is not based in modern science. If you look at the recent scientific literature on how to actually go about treating drug addiction, then drug addiction can be treated like any other chronic relapsing illness, and accordingly people can be provided treatment even on outpatient basis. That means they go to a doctor's clinic, they get assessed, diagnosed, and they are given medicines or treatment to help them come out of their addiction. And like in case of other illnesses, admission may be required, but only when there is an indication that the clinic based treatment is not working, or there is an immediate need for the individual to be treated in the ward. Another thing people often believe is that as far as the treatment of drug addiction is concerned, it is only counseling which works, because there are no medicines to treat addiction. Now, there are a number of medicines which have been developed over the last 4 or 5 decades for treatment of addiction, and many of these medicines are actually highly effective in helping people quit drugs. In fact, the treatment of drug addiction these days is actually a combination of medical treatment in which we prescribe medicines and psychological treatment in which counseling and guidance is provided. So, it is only a combination of these two approaches which actually has the best outcomes as far as treatment of drug addiction is concerned.